You might get to that perfect world in your scenario, but the reality is I think the cost of food would be astronomical. Astronomical. No, well, it's not. No. It's much more expensive in Europe. Much more expensive in Europe. And it's not, as I interpreted your question, it was not even using it for the purposes of appropriate disease control, which I think is a concern in terms of animal welfare. I think the way to do this is the way we're now approaching it, which is to essentially say it ought not to be used for growth purposes, but it ought to be used in a very judicious way for the treatment of actual illnesses and diseases. It ought to be done in conjunction with a veterinarian. It ought not to be something that you just do because you want to do it or you feel like you can do it. So we are now involving the state veterinarians and our veterinarians and the Veterinarians Association, so they are going to be present when these medications are administered. The companies that produce these medicines are now going to label it as such that it should not be used for growth promotion purposes. It should be only used for disease control. So this is a process that is actually beginning to go in the direction that you'd like to see. In addition, we have to do a lot more research on this, a lot more research, because there are multiple ways in which bacteria and all this stuff gets into the food system along the entire food chain. And we really don't know as much about this as we need to know to be able to determine exactly what additional steps need to be taken. So the President has put together a task force. We are, USDA, heavily engaged in it. A report is going to come out, and you'll see that there are going to be some very significant commitments over the course of the next several years of additional research, mileposts that we have to meet. There's going to be a very, very serious effort in this area. I don't know that it will necessarily indicate a complete eradication of it, but it will certainly substantially reduce the use of it in livestock production, and I would hope, obviously, we would see less of it as well in human health care as well. So we're very serious effort on this, but I'm not necessarily sure it's going to get exactly to the area but it's going to be much better.